Harrison Bader arrived at the trade deadline in Philadelphia and fit into exactly what this Phillies team needed him to be. But the half a season was far too short for his era in Philadelphia. Or could the end not be here quite yet? That is the message that Dave Dombrowski is making known around league circles for the center fielder who also looks damn good in a suit. I want to break down exactly what is being said from Dombrowski directly, begin to sort through this outfield puzzle, which continues to be the biggest question mark heading into this Phillies offseason. Yes, we have to talk Kyle Schwarber. Yes, we have to talk JT Realmuto. Yes, we have to talk Ranger Suarez, who I will address. An interesting quote came out in this video. But it pretty much starts and ends with what is the vision for this outfield. To this point, there is very little clarity for who will be suiting up in opening day. All we've heard is it seems to be a closed door on a Nick Castellanos return. That Harrison Bader is a free agent. Max Kepler not expected to be back. There is a belief in Justin Crawford. But where does this all fit together? And I want to start off with this quote from Dave Dombrowski regarding Harrison Bader, this coming from Matt Gelb here, and what is said from the Phillies GM on Bader is, quote, "They know we have interest. They know that we'd like to bring him back. They also expressed that they want to see what's out there because this was the best year he's had, I think, in quite a while." So what that means right there is Dombrowski putting it out there to the universe that he is not only wants Harrison Bader back, that their team is well aware of that in itself. Now, a lot of people reacted to this online post that Bader did throw out there. And I did want to pull this up in its entirety here because I do think it was taken in the wrong direction that he intended or necessarily was made out to be. And what that post was from Bader directly is, quote, "Philly baby, 2.5 months was not nearly enough, but that's all the gods had in store for us this year. To the ones who made it happen, thank you. To every screaming fan, I love you and thank you. To a clubhouse I'm humble to be a part of, especially thank you. This game is a gift, but Philly, you are a blanking gift." And I love this from Bader right there, but I do think a lot of people took that to be a goodbye or a farewell post there. Certainly is not a "I cannot wait to be back," but the dude's a free agent. That is the reality of the situation here. And it was incredibly complimentary of the entire city of Philadelphia and this team directly. That this was a dude who handled things in absolute stride this year. He has obviously been traded before in his career. He is not, not a first-timer to fitting into an organization in a midseason capacity or that kind of thing, but he handled it in glowing strides here. That this dude just welcomed it, was appreciative of being traded to the Phillies, to playing baseball with expectations in a way that brought out the best of him, and we saw that on full display. Now, this was cleared up initially after the fact by WIP's Devin Caney here, who quote tweeted it and said, "Was told Harrison Bader's latest post does not mean anything regarding his future with the Phillies. Does not mean he's not returning, quote, in the slightest, per Bader's camp. Was simply a thank you post. Have not heard anything on the Phillies outside of Dombrowski saying he sees Justin Crawford in center field during GM meetings." And I will say that point is notable here. That Justin Crawford's a guy who I still question what the entire belief or outlook is from an organizational standpoint, that it is insane to me that we did not even see this guy get a sniff of Major League Baseball last year, but that was the case, and there is still this clear belief in what Crawford can be, and Dombrowski is making it quite clear that they expect from day one that he will be playing a role on this Phillies club this year. How does that impact Harrison Bader? And the fact that Dombrowski does say that he views Crawford as the center fielder, I do think is interesting. I do think it is worth noting that when Johan Rojas was sent down to the minor leagues, that was a guy that they forced to play a little bit of corner outfield to prioritize Justin Crawford for stretches there, which was a bit of a surprise to me, and I think a bit telling about the hierarchy of where those prospects do stand up. And I will note for Johan Rojas directly, I've been a Rojas believer. That's been a guy that I really liked, enjoyed as a player. It does feel like the door was slammed shut in his face for what his future outlook is, and that's especially the case without any concrete plan for what the outfield is and little buzz about what he could potentially be. But nonetheless, to return to Harrison Bader here, I did want to note that I think it is fair to address we have a bit of an inflated perception of Harrison Bader. And the reason that is the case, to look at his stats for this year, that he had 17 home runs, 54 RBIs across his 448 at-bats. This, of course, tying in his stats with both the Twins and the Phillies here, that he did tally 124 hits while striking out 136 times. Also posted a 449 slugging percentage there. Now, to take a deeper look at what his stats overall came out to be, I want to pull up this portion from Baseball Reference here, and you can see just his stats with the Phillies, which came across 50 games and 194 at-bats, or 177 at-bats, of course, with the walks factored in there, that he produced slash lines of 305, 361, 463 with an 824 OPS. Overall posting a WAR of 1.3, 3.9 on the season, as he had an excellent year with the Twins even before the trade. But to contrast that with who he's been for the better part of his career, that across his 9-year average in the MLB, Harrison Bader is posting slash lines of 247, 313, 401 with a 714 OPS there. So for reference, just contrasting this to his stats with the Phillies versus the stats for the entirety of his career, that his batting average about 50 points lower there, slightly more, about 56, I believe. My quick math, I think that was wrong, so don't grill me too hard in the comments there. The OPS for Bader, that this year with the Phillies, 824. For his career, 714. And even just looking at the raw numbers, that this year as a whole, 17 home runs and 54 RBIs. That is the most home runs that he has hit in the entirety of his career. The RBIs that he's had, 54, which he posted. He had 51 last year. 40 was his previous high, and he had 50 back in 2021. That 3.9 WAR, the only time that he's ever touched that was back in the 2021 season with the Cardinals, at which he posted 4.1, a career season for Harrison Bader, which must be noted. Now, if you do talk to the Phillies about this, and Dave Dombrowski directly, that he's been pretty open on, this wasn't like a fluke career best season. This was him fixing things within his game, that he made some tweaks for the way that he holds his hands at the plate and the way that he does approach things here, that these are tangible changes that are producing better results. Whether that is true or not is to be determined, and this year will really be the barometer for that. But that is why the contract conversation gets so difficult. This is a guy who has maximized his market, who is a free agent at the right time for his pockets and bank account sake there. And Bader is going to be a guy who certainly tries to maximize that, and deservingly so. He should be doing that in that same case. My fear here is we get to a point where his value, or what he wants his value to be, is probably at a level above him as a player. If we're going to factor in a guy like Max Kepler, made $10 million last year from this Phillies organization directly. Bader had a $10 million mutual option and opted out of that. It is fair to connect the dots here and believe that he wants more than that, or at the minimum wants more security than that, just the 1-year deal. And he should be doing that. But I do not fault Harrison Bader for opting out of that option and getting the best contract that he possibly can. This is the timeline of his career where he should be doing this based on the context of the season that he did have. I like Harrison Bader. I want Harrison Bader in a Phillies uniform, but I do think we need to temper our expectations a bit for exactly what he was last year versus what he will be if he does return to this Phillies team. And exactly how those conversations tie together and what those numbers are going to look like are going to kind of dictate this. And a bit similar to, unfortunately, how the Kyle Schwarber conversation has shaken out to me is you cannot look at, let's sign Kyle Schwarber at all costs. Let's sign Harrison Bader at all costs. It has to be, at what cost are we signing these guys? Of what is the opportunity cost that we are passing up on potential other players by inking these guys back on their desired deal? Now, Bader's obviously in a smaller scale of that conversation than a guy like Kyle Schwarber, who's going to touch plenty more money, and deservingly so based on the player that he is. But I do think that there is the equation that you have to walk through of what are the options. Now, one of the options that has been brought up and a pretty frequent raised has been Byron Buxton here. And I know Luke Arcani, our guy, touched on it in the previous video here. For Buxton directly here, there's no denying the guy is an electric talent. And to give his stats on the season, he had 35 home runs, 83 RBIs, 41 walks. He had 488 at-bats and produced 129 hits. That's a .551 slugging percentage for the 31-year-old. And Buxton is a guy who controls his destiny, that he is a member of the Twins directly, and it is dependent on does he want to waive that trade clause to pursue and play for another team? Now, they've basically traded everyone and their mother around him on that roster, and I think it would be right for Buxton to play a little bit more baseball than matters, but it is up to him if he wants to make that determination. There are some guys that are not wired like that they don't mind playing in a no-stress situation where you can kind of just do your thing for the duration of their career. And that is not a guy that the Phillies should be interested in. I do think for Bader, the point in his favor here is he is wired in the way that he needs to be in this city. And I think what sometimes gets lost about Philadelphia athletes is, yes, you're viewed under a more significant lens, a tighter microscope than is the case in a lot of sports cities out there. And the criticism certainly applies to that. But when things are going right, boy, is it fun at the same time. There is an energy and an atmosphere that you're not going to get at other places. I don't know where Buxton fits in that entire equation, but what I do know about Byron Buxton is this was an outlier year for him as well. That, yes, the talent is notably higher than a guy like Harrison Bader. But I did want to pull up the injury history for Byron Buxton. And what that is exactly is, yes, he played this season 126 games. And yes, he played 102 games last year, which is still a notable chunk missed, I might add, 60 to be exactly precise. But look at the games played before that for the guy that is a two-time All-Star here. Played 85 games in 2023, played 92 games in 2022, 61, 39, 87, 28, that it was back in 2017, the last time that he played triple-digit games, with that being a career-high 140 games. 92 games before that, 46 the season before. That is a lot of missed time for a guy that is going to cost a pretty penny to bring into this organization. I understand that Buxton is an upgrade talent-wise. That is a very significant injury history to me, or time missed history to me, that I can't quite ignore in that conversation. It is going to be interesting to see, like, what is the first piece of this puzzle that is established, because there do have to be multiple moves that are made in this outfield. Bader coming back is not just the cure-all, the fix, the only move that will be made. I wonder how everything fits in around it, and I think we'll get our first clue once that first move is made. Maybe it will be Bader, and I am happy that Dombrowski is expressing that he wants him back in this organization, that he is being direct and putting this kind of stuff out in the public, that he wants Harrison Bader back in a Phillies uniform, but still a lot more to unfold in the entirety of the conversation. So let me know where you guys are at in that conversation directly. Do you want Harrison Bader in a uniform? And want to hear in a 1 to 10 rating, what is your list of priorities there? Is it a 10 out of 10? He must be back at all costs. A 3 out of 10, I guess, but I don't really care. You let that rip in the comments. Give me a 1 to 10 rating for how badly you want Harrison Bader back, and what is your ideal outfield around him. So drop those comments below. Make sure to drop the like button if you have not already. Subscribe to the channel if you have not just yet, right here on Phillies Digest. I'll be back talking to you next time with a lot more offseason news to get into. Peace.